How's it going, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. I want to welcome you to a brand new lecture where in this video, I'm going to break down a market maker buy model trade that I took on NASDAQ. Now, before we get into the breakdown itself, we're first going to watch the execution video. I'm going to showcase to you exactly how I took this trade, where I took partials and so on. And so without further ado, let's first watch the trade execution. So now that we have watched the trade execution, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to play a clip from the daily outlook that I did, sharing exactly what I was looking for going into today. What I can now see is we've closed above this bullish mitigation block that was utilized as resistance on price. Once it's placed above, must be utilized as support. And so as long as price remains above this array here, order flow is bullish, and this is the market maker buy model, where previous week high is the drawn liquidity. There is also SMT here at the lows with YM, so this could be a smart reversal. But again, as long as price remains above this array, order flow is bullish, drawn liquidity is buy sides. If we displace it below this array, that will validate a sell program, and then sell sides will become the draw. Now, what I said in the daily outlook was very simple. Currently, we are inside of the previous week's range, where we had the previous week high, which is this price level up here, and we had the previous week low, which is this price level here. Now, if order flow is bullish, then what I anticipate is price drawing towards the previous week high. If order flow is bearish, then what I anticipate is price drawing towards the previous week low. Now, what delivery program was price in when I took the trades? Well, what we can see is we have this bearish order block here, that was utilized as resistance on price on the left side of the curve, and so once displaced above on the right side of the curve, must be utilized as support. And so as long as price remains above this bullish mitigation block, order flow is bullish, and what I anticipated was retracements lower, expansion higher. And so if I draw in the previous day high, this was the original consolidation. Now, what I didn't do was I didn't hold until the previous day high was taken. And the reason why is because today, specifically, as you can see here, is a Monday. And why is this significant? Because it's a no news Monday, meaning there is no news on this day. And on no news Mondays, the probability of price delivering towards my targets are significantly lower. And so instead, what I did was I drew in the internal range original consolidations. We've got here Asia high, which is from 6 p.m. until 2:30 a.m. We also here had the pre-London high. I'm just going to call this pre-London high. This is what actually got fully out of the trades. And so the reason why I didn't hold all the way towards the previous day high and beyond is due to the fact that it's a no news Monday. And so I adjust my expectations as I am trading. And so if you know anything about my trading protocol, what you'll know is that there are 3 steps. Step number 1 is order flow. This is going to allow us to identify which direction to trade. And because order flow is bullish, that means price will expand higher, retrace lower, expands higher. And I prefer to get in on the expansions higher. And because price had retraced lower, what do we anticipate next? Expansion higher. Drawn liquidity, already said, because order flow is bullish, anticipating previous week high being reached, as long as price remains above this bullish mitigation block. And finally, point of interest, well, because the invalidation for the buy program is this bullish mitigation block, this also becomes my point of interest for a potential low formation for that market maker buy model. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I've heard this so many times. You go over the same steps, order flow, drawn liquidity, point of interest. It's always the same. Well, guys, trading is supposed to be boring. And if you don't understand that, then you're fucking stupid. And so now some of you might be thinking, okay, you've gone over the steps 100 times. I've seen this already. Order flow first, then drawn liquidity, then point of interest. It's the same thing. This is very boring. Well, guys, trading is supposed to be boring. If you think trading is supposed to be exciting, you're at the wrong place. You need to be bored when you are trading. And what that means is you're following the same protocol every single day. Like, this is literally how I'm able to trade every single day, every single week, because I literally follow the same steps. If you can't follow the same steps over and over and over again, then you're not going to be able to make it as a consistently profitable trader. And so if you're complaining about the trading protocol being boring, then you're fucking stupid, and you need to take a look at yourself in the mirror and identify what that problem is that's not allowing you to follow rules in order to achieve that consistency that you need. Now, we know order flow is bullish, we know the drawn liquidity is higher, and we know prices retrace into a point of interest. Once this occurs, we then drop to a lower time frame. Now, in order to confirm a smart money reversal, what we need are 3 components. Firstly, we need a change in the state of delivery. Secondly, we need SMT. And then finally, we need time to align with the price. And so if we begin with SMT, what we can see here is we had a 3-minute cycle SMT. If I just go to the 3-minute time frame, it's going to be easier for you to see. What we can see is that NASDAQ formed the low at 933, ES formed the low at 930, same as YM. And so we had this 3-minute cycle SMT here at the smart money reversal, which is what validated that the time is right for price to produce a reversal. So we've got SMT, 3-minute cycle SMT. When does time align with price? Well, if I just draw in the macro window from 9:45 until 10:15, what we know is that if the smart money reversal occurs outside the macro window, which it did in this case, then we know the macro window should expand. And what we can see is at 9:45, price produced that final displacement leg lower or manipulation leg lower, followed by that distribution higher during the macro window as anticipated. The reason why price went lower again is because if I just go into replay, what you're going to see is there was actually a new SMT that formed. I'm just going to show you the time cycle SMT. And what we can see is that price produced that final manipulation leg lower. We had that 10-minute cycle SMT, which forms on this manipulation leg lower, 10-minute cycle SMT with YM. As we can see, YM made a lower low, whereas NASDAQ made a high low. And finally, we need a change in the state of delivery. Now what I saw was that this left side of the curve was very aggressive, and so I went down to a 15-second time frame because now I can see the distribution phases a lot clearer. And what we saw is that price produced a change in the state of delivery. We had this bearish order block that was inversed, and so once price displaced higher, that was confirmation of this SMT within our macro window, and now we had a change in the state of delivery, and so all that's left to do is to take the trades. And so if we add the risk reward tool, what we can see is that this was the entry, this was the invalidation level, this swing low here. And if we go back to the 1 minute time from now, this was the original consolidation, where we had original consolidation, left side of the curve, smart reversal, right side of the curve. And so this was my first target. This is where I took off a partial at this specific price level here. And then my final target was that pre-London high. And so that first target was reached. We also had London high, which was around here. And then finally, price continued towards the pre-London high, which was the drawn liquidity, which is where I fully got out of the trades. Now, if you'll notice, I drew in some discount arrays. So I had this bullish order block here, these bearish order blocks that had been inversed, which became a bullish breaker. Also had this bearish order block here, which again had been inversed. Also drawing this bullish order block here. Now what you'll notice is every time I draw in an array, it is utilized as support or resistance on price. Now the reason being is because I'm referring to arrays that have already been utilized as support or resistance. So for example, this bullish order block is of course the final PD array in this manipulation leg lower, because remember this low cannot be taken because of the SMT. We've got this bearish order block, which is a bullish breaker. Notice price does not utilize that as support. Why? Well, because IPDA has not referred to it. There was no retracement leg into it, followed by distribution lower. But if we look at this bearish order block here, it was utilized as resistance, resistance, resistance. Once it's placed above, must be utilized as support. We then had this bullish order block here that was utilized as support on price. And so what do we anticipate if returned to? Utilized as support again to expand into that pre-London high. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is because some of you look at PD arrays in the form of patterns. However, I look at PD arrays in the form of signatures. If I see that IPDA has referred to a PD array in the past, what that tells me is that if the delivery program is going to continue, then IPDA should refer to that PD array in the future. And this is how I'm able to identify which PD arrays will be utilized as support or resistance, because I'm paying attention to which PD arrays have physically already been utilized as support or resistance in the past. I'm not looking at patterns, I'm looking at signatures. I'm looking at how IPDA is referring to these PD arrays, which allows me to project into the future to identify whether an array should be utilized as support or resistance based on whether my drawn liquidity is not being reached, based on whether the time is right for price to begin expanding, based on whether there's SMT, and so on. And so the main takeaway from this video is to pay attention to which PD arrays have been utilized as support or resistance on price already, because if the delivery program continues, then IPDA should utilize that array as support or resistance. If it does, that indicates a low resistance liquidity when environments. If it doesn't, then what that indicates is a high resistance liquidity when environments. And that is going to allow you to identify which environments to engage in the future. And so that brings us to the end of today's lecture, today's breakdown, where I've broken down this market maker buy model that I took. Not the cleanest price action. Reason being is it was a no news Monday. And so I partialed accordingly and I managed the trade according to the environments that we were engaging in. I hope you found some value. And with that, I'll see you in the next lecture. Be safe.